And welcome back to the Clear Jets podcast. We're Ben Blessington and Michael Nania. Well, Michael, we are here. Another preview podcast. Every game is a big game, but the one this Sunday, Michael, it feels like an opportunity for the Jets to really stake their claim at a playoff spot. It won't be easy. I think they're 9.5-point underdogs. At least they were last time I checked. So clearly not the favorites. The Bills get a lot of guys back. The Jets get a lot of guys back. It's a completely different matchup than it was a few weeks ago, but it's still a huge one nonetheless. How are you feeling a few days out?
Yeah, I think like you said, this is a big opportunity for the Jets. I don't think it's a must-win game, but you're getting to that point of the season where every single loss really hurts your chances of making the playoffs. I think the best way to sum it up, I was looking at the playoff odds at Football Outsiders, and the way they have this shaping up for the Jets is that right now their playoff odds are at 56%. If they lose this game, it only drops to 49%, which is, it's only a small loss because it's a game the Jets aren't quite expected to win anyway. But if they win it, I believe it goes up to 86%, 82, somewhere in there. So if you can find a way to win this game, going on the road, sweep the Bills, get the tiebreaker over them, and just everything that comes with beating this team and sweeping them, and just what that says about the talent level of this team going forward, it means a lot. If you can win this game, you're in a really good shape heading into those final 4 weeks. If you lose, which is, what I think is the more likely outcome, then, it's not the end of the world. You have 2 winnable games coming up, and one in Seattle you can also win, and a Miami team that is better than when the Jets last played them, assuming Tua plays, but a team you could beat. So it's a pivotal game here. I think this game is what serves as a difference between, are the Jets a really legitimate team that should have no problem cruising to the playoffs, or are they going to have to scratch and claw and have a really good finish over the final 4 games to get in? So very big opportunity for the Jets here to establish themselves as, the better end of what they've shown this season, because we've seen some good, we've seen some bad, especially over the last few weeks. So which team are you? Are you a fringe team, or are you a really talented team that can actually make some noise? I think we'll find that out this week.
And can you even imagine if they beat the Bills, Michael?
Yeah, I mean that was not even thought of.
Wait,
I think one.
Wait. I said it wrong. My bad.
Okay.
My bad. Here we go. It's not that bad. Come on. I'm the one who has to fucking edit this in finals week, dude.
Okay.
All right. And can you even imagine if they sweep the Bills, Michael? Like, that wasn't even on the playing table when we opened the season. It was just
no, not in the cards at all.
Yeah, that was a better way of saying it. It was just be in the hunt in December. It was all we cared about. And they're doing that right now. I mean, right now they would be in the playoffs, and I think it's a good time of the podcast. We're definitely going to talk pretty much entirely about the Bills game, but let's look at the playoff picture a little bit, give people a little recap, or set the scene in terms of what they should be cheering for this Sunday.
What I thought you were going to say before we got into this is I thought we were going to take a step back here and appreciate where we're at before we look ahead.
There's no appreciation.
No appreciation? We're not appreciating this.
It's crunch time right now. We're going down the season.
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say, let's just take a moment. We don't know where it's going to go from here. This is what we wanted. Meaningful games. We're talking about the playoffs right now. We're not talking about the draft or free agency. There are high stakes. Everything matters. Every moment of your week, at least for me, is your emotions are affected by, man, are the Jets going to make the playoffs this year? I can't fully enjoy my life right now without knowing that fact.
What?
That's me, at least.
I feel like you should be in a better. I
guess that contradicts my statement about appreciation. But
yeah,
that's
I'll say it's better
to get into.
It's better when It's better than when 2020 when we were just cheering for them to lose, and it felt like the weeks that year from week 11 to week 17, the end of the season. Those weeks felt like they took 8 months. You're just waiting for the season to end. So it's like, all right, can we fire Gase now? Can we get on with the off season so we have something to look forward to? It's like, no. I mean, I know what you mean. Where it's like, the Jets are getting good enough to the point where they're going to have heartbreaking games again, which sucks. Yeah. But this is. I mean, as Bill Parcells says, this is why we lift all the weights, Michael. All right. Well, let's set the scene though a little bit
in terms of we're looking ahead now. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, look, I like it. We should definitely be grateful for what the Jets have done so far, but they certainly have an opportunity in front of them to not just make the playoffs, but make some noise in the playoffs. And as ridiculous of a statement that may have sounded like a few months ago, I think the team has proved it. And then especially the quarterback performance the last 2 weeks, now you're able to say, hold on now. The Jets aren't held back by a quarterback. Why can't they go into road territories in the playoffs and win a few games? You know, like I know the current matchup with them right now is, and not to get too far ahead of our skis, is Kansas City. And look, the Jets probably won't win that game. Kansas City's a great team, but look at those individual matchups. It's not like the Jets are the or the Chiefs are the far superior team. It's like, all right, I mean, like we could put Sauce Gardner on Travis Kelce. Like I trust our defensive line to get pressure against that O-line. I mean, obviously Mahomes is such a freakazoid, but it's like, you know, if Mike White is playing at a high level, you never know. I'm not saying like that the Jets are going on a Super Bowl run just yet, but they certainly have, for the first time since 2015, they have the potential to make a championship run. You know, as small as a percent as it might be. Look at me trying to like play both sides of the fence here. I really just want to scream with my chest that the Jets are going to make a playoff run, but I'll hold back on that for now. Let's all right, let's set the scene though. So right now, 3 wildcard teams: Bengals, Dolphins, Jets. We got a few teams on the outside looking in. The most important ones to watch are the Chargers and the Patriots. The Patriots, obviously, because they have the tiebreaker over the Jets. And then also, you can factor in the Ravens, who are currently, they're the 4 seed or the 3 seed right now. I should probably pull up the standings while I talk
3
about
seed.
it. But,
3 seed.
But the Ravens are tied with the Bengals, so it's possible that with Lamar Jackson getting injured, the Ravens could be a team to keep an eye out for. Unfortunately, the Jets don't have the tiebreakers with the Bengals, the Ravens, or the Patriots. They do have, however, have them with the Browns and Steelers, who don't seem like playoff contenders. Same with the Raiders, but they're hanging around, and the Raiders are getting hot now, and the Browns get Watson back, and the Steelers seem to be finding their groove a little bit with Pickett. So there's all these teams all fighting for a limited amount of spots in December. The Jets are at the front of that pack right now, but you know, it changes every week. We were talking about this before, just how crazy it is, how important every single game is. Just really, I think that's really what makes the NFL so successful, is because there's not a single wasted game. Even the winnable games are like, okay, they should beat Detroit, they should beat Jacksonville. It's like every game in the NFL is hard. All those games start out at 0-0, and you're going up against NFL players, and upsets happen every week, and so it's just a battle every single week. And they could beat the Bills and then lose to the Lions, but certainly a win this weekend would be absolutely massive. So, okay, Michael, maybe set the scene. I've said set the scene 8 times now. Set the scene for us, Michael. Who needs to win this Sunday? What are the Jets looking at?
Should I set the scene?
I think the setting of the scene should commence.
The setting of the scene is commencing right now. All right, let's talk about this. I mean, for me, I think, like you said, it's the Chargers and the Patriots that I have my eyes on. I know the Raiders are coming up here, and they're making a run. The Steelers and the Browns are hanging around, but if the Jets have to worry about those teams, then they didn't do their part, because, you know, and they're in a position here where if they could just keep playing at the level they play this year, you know, which is be a winning team, not necessarily a dominant team, but win more often than they lose, finish 3-2 here at the least, those teams won't come close to catching them. So I'm not too worried about them yet, but the Chargers and the Patriots are definitely where you're keeping an eye on. And I think the Chargers feel like a little bit more of a threat just because of the Patriots' schedule. Because you look at the Patriots' schedule here, and they got the Cardinals this week. That's probably the most winnable game they have left. But on the road, Cardinals are coming off a bye. They're healthier than they've been all season. Hopkins is back. Brown is back. Murray's missed some time. He's back. Then next week against the Raiders, who are getting hot. And, you know, I think we'll want to root for the Raiders there, despite their improvements. Then after that, Bengals, Dolphins, Bills to finish up. And Patriots really have not looked that great against good teams this year. I mean, the Jets are the only winning team that the Patriots have beat this season. So they've yet to show that they can compete with teams like that. So I'm not totally confident in the Patriots to catch up to the Jets, but we'll see what happens. And you'll want to root against them every single week. But Chargers are a bigger threat because of the schedule they have. They got Miami this week. That's a tough one. Tennessee the next week. That's a tough one, but I mean, the Titans are falling off a little bit. They haven't looked too great. But then after that, Colts, Rams, and Broncos to finish the season. That's terrifying for the Jets. There's a very good chance the Chargers can at least pull out 3 wins here and maybe make a push for 4. So that's what makes it tough for the Jets. And then in terms of the tiebreaker with the Chargers, that's interesting because it could go either way. Right now, the Chargers have the conference record is even right now between the Jets and the Chargers in terms of how many losses they have. But if the Chargers win this week and the Jets lose, the Chargers will take the tiebreaker in terms of conference record. The Jets are 5-4, Chargers are 4-4, and if they tie in conference record, then it goes to the common games, and that would be good news for the Jets because the Jets have that right now. In the common games that they played, same opponents, the Chargers and Jets have both played. Jets are 3-0, Chargers are 1-3, I believe. And so, as long as all four of these games don't go the Jets' way or the Chargers' way, as long as the Jets don't lose to both the Seahawks and Jaguars, and the Chargers don't beat both the Dolphins and the Broncos, all four of those things happen. Jets will have that locked up. So the Jets could win the tiebreaker against the Chargers. So that was a lot.
I'm not sure how much of that I tracked, if I'm being completely honest. But
the stage was set, or the scene was set, or whatever, and I did my one-man show there.
Yes.
Maybe could have used some supporting acts to kind of help us, present the information a little bit better. But here's the bottom line. Win some football games, so let's not worry about this.
Jets win, and then just cheer against Bengals, Ravens, Dolphins, Chargers, Patriots, and then we'll throw the Raiders and Browns and Steelers in there. And then if they play, I don't know. The one game I am curious about, because it's a Sunday, so we should talk about it. Are you cheering for the Chargers or the Dolphins?
Yeah, I was just going to say. I mean, I think I'm going Dolphins right now because for me it's more so just about, kind of having that buffer in case the Jets struggle. Just you want to get into the playoffs. It's enticing because they have the Dolphins tiebreaker. Can they make a play for the division maybe or jump over the Dolphins? So that's an enticing aspect of it. I guess it just depends on how confident you are and what the Jets will do. And because that's a Sunday night game and it's going to come after the Jets play the Bills, I think we'll have more information by then in terms of what we want. Because, I mean, if the Jets win, and I'll ask you this, if the Jets beat the Bills, does that push you towards the Dolphins a little bit? Do you start setting your sights higher off that confidence of beating the Bills, or are we still thinking, you know what? Let's just get that Chargers loss. Let's increase this cushion to 2 games here for the playoffs.
I mean, I think it's a win-win if they beat the Bills, because part of me would also say this. If the Chargers beat the Dolphins, I think it'll be pretty hard for the Jets to enter the last week of the year and not have a shot at the playoffs, because they'll be able to play the Dolphins again, and they'll either, if they're a game back, a win will get them over the Dolphins.
Right, yeah. As long as they're within one game of the Dolphins, that last game, they could jump them.
Right,
so there's that aspect. It's kind of a win-win if they beat the Bills. You're right.
Yeah, if the Chargers win, then it's not only am I looking at the division, but I'm also but the Dolphins now are, and the Dolphins don't have a extremely easy schedule. I mean, they do have, I have to pull it up, but I know they play the Packers in there.
Yeah, I got it here. So at Chargers, at Bills, Packers at home, at Patriots, and then the Jets.
And so, and they've lost how many games? 4 games. The Jets are at 5.
Yeah, they're at 8-4. Yeah.
So, what do they need to finish? Math guy, can you just do what do they need to finish for the Jets to... In their 4 games before the Jets game, what do they need to go for the Jets to have a shot at them? To be within
as long as the Jets
assuming the Jets go...
Them. Yeah. Because as long as they're within one game, they beat them and tie them. They have the tiebreaker.
Okay, so I'm saying, if the Dolphins go 2-2 and the Jets go...
If the Dolphins are 2-2 the next 4 games, then the Jets... just have to match that and also go 2-2, and they would still be within reach. Which is doable with those 2 home games.
Definitely doable. And then also you look at that Dolphins schedule, it's there's potentially 2 losses in there. But then if the Chargers
that silver lining. So if they lose to the Chargers, then they're at the Bills the next week. If they lose that too, then all the Jets have to do is take care of business in those home games, and they'll have that shot in Week 18.
Right. There we go. I'm glad we went through that.
Okay, there we go. Now the scene has been said. There are 2 actors in here bouncing off of each other. Now
the bit's over. The bit is over. Let's go to Buffalo.
Window. Back to the uniforms.
Back to the uniforms real quick. White on black. No, I'm just kidding. I think they're going to go... Well, we should talk about this. Max Mitchell. Kind of some big injury news this week. Not only was there the Jets flu going around, which did affect an interview we had scheduled for this week. It's been rescheduled for next week. As I said, though, I'm careful about promoting it because it's we did kind of promote it on the podcast and then it didn't happen. And so it's I'll wait for that to be in the can. But we should have George Fant on the podcast next week with that coming out next Wednesday. Fingers crossed. that goes according to plan. So not only was there a little Jets flu going around, and I did notice like Reed had a mask on after the game, and then even like like the Jets put out like a little practice video or whatever of like whatever, and like I saw some players with masks on. So clearly there's like a flu going around, which I'm curious if that'll affect the Jets on Sunday. Maybe it won't be anything. It seems like that's going around the entire league. Maybe it'll affect some fatigue. Who knows? Maybe some guys won't play. I know Clemens hasn't practiced yet. Maybe somebody else gets sick on Friday night. So we got that to worry about, I guess. But the bigger story, Max Mitchell, who, thoughts, prayers go out to him. I know his dad said he had found blood clots in his lung and his calf. So hopefully everything's good with Max. But obviously he's out for the rest of the year. They say it shouldn't be like a long-term thing for him, that he should be good to go. But the Jets, man, just keep getting hammered at offensive tackle. And at this point, it's like you raised a great point to me, though, that they're getting lucky, though, a little bit with the guys returning. It seems like a guy returns and then that week somebody goes down. But it's like Becton in preseason. Then they bring in Dwayne Brown. And then who went down? I think it was Dwayne Brown went down. And then Fant went down. And then they converted AVT to left tackle and played him all over the place.
Plot twists in this.
Mitchell went down.
Keep track of it.
Boy, he came in and played well, and then he went down, and now it's like, Fant comes back, and now Mitchell's out again. It's been a revolving door there, and it I was about to say sets the stage, but no, I feel like I shouldn't say it. It sets the Jets up for December football with two tackles, one playing with a torn rotator cuff, one who's missed plenty of games in his career. And if either of them go down, I don't really know what the Jets do. I mean, I know they have Mike Remmers, who's shout out, went to my high school, but no offense, I don't know if he's very good. Hopefully he's not listening to that. But it's like if the Jets lose Brown or Fant, man, they're in a bad spot. So that definitely adds some pressure to the season. So what did you make of some of the injury news this week and then the offensive tackles moving forward?
Well, yeah, it's definitely tough from a depth perspective. I mean, like you said, they've kind of been lucking out here where they haven't entered a disastrous spot because guys keep coming back just in time for someone else to go out. It's like they're only allowed to have a certain number of healthy tackles at once. That's the limit the football gods have set on it. But I'm excited about having Fant back. I really am, because I mean, I feel like it's been lost by a lot of people how good he was.
Butter him up before his performance. Butter him up.
I don't.
You're being legit.
Look, that's part of it, but I think we're pretty honest, and I wouldn't be saying it if I don't think it was legitimate. I definitely think the numbers are there. The film was there. I put out an article showing some of his film. I think he played good in this Vikings game.
Yeah, he did. He did.
You're playing against Danielle Hunter and Zadarius Smith, maybe the best edge duo in the league, and him and Brown were locking down. I mean, the Jets had to drop back over 60 times, and these guys only combined to get 5 pressures between them, and they usually average about 10 a game. So their production was cut in half versus what they usually do, with the Jets having to pass a very high number of times. And you look at Fant, I think he was healthy because beginning of the season he was struggling, and it was odd to watch because he was so good last year, but then you get the justification that he wasn't fully healed from the knee injury, so he goes on IR, and you hope that you can get him back healthy and back in full form by the end of the season. He comes back against the Vikings, and you watch him play, and I think you look back to his peak form. I mean, his explosiveness out of his stance, just the quickness of his footwork, just at the point of attack with his strength, maintaining blocks, it looked better. Like there's more confidence in that knee, holding up the lower body strength to anchor down. It all looked a lot better, and I think you got that top-tier pass blocking tackle we saw last year. And I know it was at left tackle when he had his production in 2021, but I don't think left tackle is part of it because, pre-2021, his pressure rate at right tackle is actually much lower than when he was at left tackle. So there wasn't really any evidence he was better at left tackle. I just think last year was his breakout because he started football so late. He didn't play until his last year of college. So in terms of being a football player, this really is the beginning of his prime, even though he's older in terms of, his actual age. I think in terms of being a football player, that was just his breakout year. I think it would have happened at right tackle. So I'm confident he can carry that over to the right side. And if he keeps playing like he did in this Vikings game and like he did last year in terms of how low his pressure numbers were, I mean, he had the third lowest pressure rate among all left tackles last season. Only gave up 18 all season. So if he can keep that up, I mean, that's a huge boost for this Jets offense because they've stayed afloat and they've had decent, respectable play from Mitchell, from Agbuehi. I mean, while AVT was in there, you had a short stretch of elite play before he went out. But other than that, you've been surviving. But Fan, I think, is capable of giving you high-level pass protection over there. And it could set up some explosive stuff for this passing game to where you don't have to just be a quick passing offense to where you can be confident that you have a tackle, tackles on both sides with the way Dwayne Brown has played sometimes this season. He's been a little inconsistent, but you have the confidence to where these guys can hold up and you can drop back and throw the ball, and you don't always have to rush it out. So I think they benefited from that in the Vikings game with some of their downfield completions later in the game. So I'm optimistic about Fant, but the depth without Mitchell definitely is a question mark. If one of these guys get hurt, which based on the way the season has gone so far, seems kind of inevitable. Hopefully not, though.
Yeah, the other thing with Fant is he's such a great scheme fit for this outside zone system. And they have two guards right now. Losing Elijah Vera Tucker, I think, Nate Herbig has been awesome. I really hope the Jets bring him back. He's only 24, by the way, which I don't know if I fully realized. But they're both, him and Lakin, like, obviously they can both pull and run the offense, but both their games, I feel like, are predicated on power, and having a guy on the offensive line who you trust can get outside, get in front, be a lead blocker, his natural athleticism is huge for this offensive line. So getting a guy like Fant back is awesome because, not only are you more confident in him as a pass protector than Mitchell, his skill set suits this running game so well. Right. You want to run those stretch plays, those toss plays, whatever, to Bam Knight on the right side, you can do that because you got George Fant getting out in front of him. Very curious to see how that develops. You talked a little bit about his performance in the Vikings game. Was there anybody else that stood out to you in a good or a bad way? You got to sit back, watch the coach's film. What were some of your other thoughts from the Vikings game before we talk about Buffalo?
Well, I'm curious to hear your thoughts too. I guess I'll start with mine on Mike White and how he played in this game. You go ahead and tell me what you think once I kind of sum it up. But I think for me, I mean, I like this game from Mike White a lot. I don't think it was as sharp as the Bears game. It was definitely more inconsistent. There were some mistakes in there, but for the most part, I think he was really solid. And again, it was imperfect, and I'll, say some of the things that I thought, were on the negative side in this game. I mean, his accuracy at times was imperfect. He had good general accuracy where he's getting the ball there, it was catchable, but there were some passes that were a little bit behind, a little bit high. So it wasn't totally perfect in the accuracy department, although the receivers didn't do the greatest job in those 50-50 situations. They probably should have caught at least a couple more of those. Obviously the Barrios play at the end being the most notable one. Definitely a little bit behind Barrios if he puts it out in front. It's an easier catch, but still one I'd probably blame the receiver for more because it's still in his chest.
Definitely on Barrios. I mean,
I'd say like 80%, 20% in favor of Barrios. I guess. But you also
remember White has a guy in his face, and if you look, that's one of the few throws where his feet aren't really planted. They look actually more like Zach Wilson's feet, where they're parallel to the line of scrimmage.
It was kind of an arm angle throw.
Yeah, he had to get it around
around the D line.
I know what you mean, though. He's accurate, but he's not necessarily always precise.
Right, and that's the thing, like about with throws and quarterbacking is like look at every single NFL throw that's at least beyond the line of scrimmage, not a check down. What percentage of them are absolutely perfect? It's not a high percentage. Probably
you just got to get it in the catch radius,
like a quarter. Yeah. So it's nice if you can do that, but to expect a guy to be perfect in every single throw is way too high of an expectation.
Especially in his Especially in his fifth start? Is that what it was?
Yeah, fifth start. It's just what you don't want to do is have, not to make the comparisons, but you just don't want to have, what Zach Wilson was doing at times where the accuracy is so off that the receiver has no shot at it. That's what you don't want.
And consistently off.
And consistently, right. So, you would like him to be more on target. And I think he is capable of being more on target than he was in this Vikings game, like the Bears game. So there were some throws that were imperfect. The Garrett Wilson throw, the deep bomb, would love to have that back, but he definitely bounced back and made, I think, at least 3 elite throws after that. So he definitely made up for it. And there was one play where Elijah Moore kind of got open on a vertical route where he missed them. But I mean, it was one I would like him to hit, but it wasn't egregious because he would have to, get to his third read and really notice a coverage bust to get to it. So those were some of the mistakes. But the big time throws he made in this game, both the number of them and how good they were, it's some of the most high level stuff I've seen from any Jets quarterback over the past few years. And they've had Sam Darnold and Zach Wilson, who are very talented guys, and it's Mike White who comes out here, the supposed game manager, who makes some of these big time throws. I mean, just the number of tight window completions, some of them pressured, some of them not, but just with anticipation, with touch, like the one to Corey Davis right after he missed Garrett Wilson deep. Then the 4th and 10 throw, getting up after a big hit, and then it throws into an impossible window while getting pressured and sliding away from the pressure. That's one of the best throws I've seen from a Jets quarterback. The end of the first half, the sideline throw he had to Garrett Wilson, that was a minuscule window. And then the final drive, when they were making their last-ditch attempt to tie the game, he has another throw where he floats it over the underneath defenders, drops it in to Garrett Wilson. So the high points in this game were really, really high, and he had a lot of them. And I also think there were a number of plays where the receivers kind of let him down. Well, there's one play in the red zone where he did throw a pretty good ball to Garrett Wilson on an out route, but Wilson kind of got held while he was in the middle of the route, so it made it look like the ball was off, but he put it where it should be. Wilson got held. He didn't get there in time, so that was unfortunate. But there was one play where he tried to hit Elijah Moore in like a wheel route, but he kind of quit on the route a little bit, didn't get to the spot. And then there was the sideline throw at the end of the first half. Really good ball on the sideline. Moore couldn't get his feet in. So there were some plays like that. And I think he got unlucky on one red zone play. He was trying to hit Corey Davis on a little post route, something in breaking. And it looked like it was going to be there, but it gets deflected at the line, so that was unfortunate.
Yeah.
Overall, though, really liked this game. It's unfortunate they couldn't get the win to kind of back up the hype and keep it going. And, he has 2 fluky interceptions that make his stats look bad, but you turn on the film and you watch how he played, I'm very impressed. So were you just as impressed with this performance as I was?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, look, we said it. We have to see this game against Buffalo is huge, because if he goes out there and
for sure.
If he plays at the same level, and that doesn't even mean he has to throw 300 yards, even just if he's able to manage the game and the Jets play competitively, that'll do a lot in solidifying everything that we've seen. But I think what last Sunday did show me is it did solidify that the Jets have an NFL quarterback. Is he going to be the starter for next year? I don't know. Is he going to be the starter all the way until the end of the season? I don't know. But at this point, I'm feeling a lot better about those answers than I was when Zach Wilson first went down. And I thought Mike White would play well, but he's living up to everything and probably a little bit more than I thought he could be, because you're seeing that arm talent that he actually does have. Like that conception of him being a dink and dunk quarterback, like sure, like he'll take what's there, but he certainly has a hell of an arm. I mean, you could just see it in the velocity that he's throwing. We haven't seen him. We did see it a little bit through like straight downfield, 9 balls, post routes, like 45, 50 yards down the throw. I think down the field, I think he only had a few. He missed the one to Garrett Wilson by, a foot. And then he had another deep post to Garrett Wilson that I actually thought was pretty nice ball placement. But on those, a 20-yard dig or a 15-yard out route far hash, like the arm strength that you have to have in order to complete that throw, especially you see some of the tight windows he's fitting into, is legit. I think the thing that stands out to me with Mike White, and I was thinking about this, is how many times over the last few years have we said about a guy or a prospect, including a few Jets quarterbacks, like, I wonder what he would have been like if he got a chance to sit right away. Like if he just wasn't just thrown right to the wolves in the NFL. Because being an NFL quarterback is almost a ridiculous task when you think about how hard it is. And, you draft a kid straight out of college and he's thrown right in there and he doesn't really even know what he's doing. And he's becoming an adult too at the same time. Like there's all these things. He has to mature and he has to learn how to read NFL defenses. He's trying to hold a new playbook in his head. He's trying to gel with his teammates and learning about what life is like in the NFL. All that stuff. Mike White is one of the few guys that actually did get the chance to just sit. And he wasn't a highly touted draft pick. But, because he was able to have 2019 with the 2018 with the Cowboys, goes through that year, gets some preseason reps, goes through his first training camp, whatever, gets cut, with the Jets in 2019. Same thing. Scout team reps in the film room with an NFL team. Then 2020, same thing. 2021, finally in year 4, right? I did my math right? Yeah, okay, sorry. I'm English guy, not a math science guy. Year 4, he finally gets his first start. And then he gets another year to sit on that in the same system, and then come back, and then halfway through his 5th season, 18, 19, 20, 21, I'm still right. I can count to 5. Halfway through his 5th season, he's finally a starting quarterback. And you see, even though it's his 5th game, he feels like a veteran out there. He feels in control. He feels like he knows what he's doing. But at the same time, because it's only his 5th start, you still should be optimistic about, well, what else can this guy do? Like, how much better can he get now that he's actually seeing live bullets? He's built a great base just in practice and in the film room and on his own time, but now he's facing it for real. And Zach Wilson even said, because I said it was like a month ago, a reporter asked him, like, how valuable are like practice reps? And he basically just said the only reps that are really valuable are in game, which maybe was a little short-sighted. Hopefully that he'll get some of what Mike White got and gets to sit for a little bit and take a breath and really soak in what it means to be an NFL quarterback and what that means. But from Mike White's perspective, now he's seeing the live bullets, but he has a great foundation. Now it's like, where can he take this? So yeah, I mean, like, is he limited athletically in terms of like, yeah, he's not a very mobile quarterback. We certainly saw that on Sunday at times. A little hesitant to run, but he has enough mobility, more so than Flacco, to like get out of sacks or run the bootlegs. But we've seen like, if we were to watch a cut up of that Vikings game, and let's just say it wasn't against the Minnesota Vikings, it was against, I don't know, Tennessee, whatever, college team, and you watch that as a college quarterback, you're like, damn, this guy's freaking good. Like 6'5", strong arm, super accurate. Look how he's throwing with anticipation, and all that stuff feels like it doesn't apply to Mike White because he's 27, but it's like, this is still a guy entering his 6th career start. And 3 times he's hit the field for the Jets, 4 if you want to count the Colts. He's been lights out. And he's had one bad game and then one game where he came in, against the Patriots and moved the ball or whatever. But like pretty much every time he's been on the field, he's been absolute money. So my favorite phrase is about to come up, Michael. It's possible he turns into a pumpkin.
Here it is. There it is.
There it is. Finally.
I think I told you Rich Eisen used that phrase talking about Mike White.
He's probably said it for longer than me. If we're being honest, Rich Eisen has probably said that before I have.
Or he just stole it from you.
Yeah, I'm sure he's a huge CYJ fan. But yeah, I just feel like you have to be optimistic with Mike White, but a lot of it comes down to this Sunday. He can still have a clunker of a game, and then I'd still think roll with him. And if he has a good game against Detroit and then a good game in prime time against you could still feel good about the Jets' playoff chances. But if he goes into Buffalo and plays like he's been playing, and the Jets sneak out a win and sweep the Bills, the Jets are a legitimate Super Bowl contender because they'll have shown they can beat anybody in the league.
Yeah, and I mean, this is huge for White for so many reasons. It's a team that sent him to the bench last year, made him look human. It's an elite defense after, you played, and that's going to be, the narrative of these 2 games, like, oh, he did against Chicago, oh, he did against Minnesota. And that's totally legitimate to say. So to do it against an elite defense on the road that squashed you last year would say so much, especially in this spot with how important it is for the Jets' playoff hopes. It would mean a lot. But I guess what I would say in regards to like the quality of the defenses he's faced, first thing I would say is both of these 2 teams that they played, the Jets put up the most yards on them that anyone has put on them this season. The 466 against the Bears, season high for Chicago. 486 against the Vikings, season high for them. So even relative to that, it was very, very good offense. And then you look at the Minnesota tape, and regardless of what the Vikings have been this season, the coverage in this game was tight. They did not look like a last-ranked pass defense in this game. No. Like the throws Mike White had to make, I mean, like if you're watching the game, which hopefully everyone did, and they don't just look at the box score.
No, you watch the game. Listen to the pods. You don't have to watch.
Yeah, like that. Just everyone, like it's like just listening to like an audiobook or a story. Like they just want to hear it through the podcast form. But yeah, I mean, like there's nothing easy about what he was doing. Maybe the Vikings are usually bad, but in this game, I feel like they were winning the battles in terms of covering routes, having the right coverages called for what the Jets were calling offensively. He had to make tough throws. Nothing was easy. I would say the pass protection was good. He got some help there. But in terms of, it was kind of the opposite of what you expected. You thought the pass rush would be the issue and the coverage would be bad, but they did shut down the pass rush.
I will say, though,
the coverage was tight.
I will say, though, the last play of the game, if Dwayne Brown holds up for one more second, the Jets win that game. Because the only reason he throws to Corey Davis right there is just because that's the read he's on when I forget exactly who was it. Do you know who was pressuring off of Dwayne Brown's?
I forget exactly who it was.
Exactly,
I know exactly
whatever.
What we were talking
but
about.
Defender, he can feel the defender breathing on him, and he has to throw it. But if Dwayne Brown doesn't get, who by the way just gets beat straight off the snap, and because of that, he's on Garrett Wilson first, switches to Corey Davis, pressures there, he has to throw it. But if he gets an extra half a second, he gets to either read number 3 and goes to Elijah Moore, who's open, who either gets into the end zone, the Jets win, or gets tackled at like the 2 or 1 yard line, and the Jets have to scramble and spike the ball or whatever. Or he comes back to Garrett Wilson, who I kind of feels like he was going to get open in the back of the end zone there. If you look, he's behind Davis. He still has a guy in the area.
Definitely better shot than what he did try, which was his only option at that point. So
right,
you don't fault him for it.
Exactly, but meaning if he had that extra second,
right.
if Dwayne Brown held up, he's either hitting Elijah Moore for a big completion and potential game winner, or he's going to find Garrett Wilson back right corner of the end zone for the game winner. So I will say the pass rush did let him down in the end. And that play, and then the other play that bugged me, and you put it out, was the play right before that, the third down, where he was running or he's rolling right, and you felt like either A, he could scramble, get 10 yards to get out of bounds, put the Jets in a better situation. B, do what he tries to do, which is throw to Elijah Moore, but he kind of misses the pass, and maybe Elijah should have brought it down. Whatever, it was a little outside, little bit of both. Or option 3 was Denzel Mims was wide open, and it's a little tough to fault Mike White because one, he's already locked into the open guy and Moore, and Mims is running a dig going left. But you would have also, there was nobody in the same zip code as Mims, and so you almost wish he would just kind of sit in the open space. I don't know exactly how they coach it. Maybe, I think they had, I don't know if it was Conklin. Somebody else was coming to kind of maybe fill that space, so maybe he's just told to keep running his route. But with White rolling right, even with Mims running a route to the left, he still could have thrown it. But if Mims had even just sat down in that open space, he is wide open. There wasn't anybody. He could have stood in the end zone and didn't have a single Viking within 10 yards of him. So that play,
I think that's more, for that to have been an option, I think Mims should have improvised better. Because, White was going right, Mims was going left. You'd kind of have to throw it across his body. And Harrison Smith was over there. He wasn't close to him yet, but based on the trajectory of that throw, he would be able to kind of get in the way. So, I think Mims just kind of should have sat it, maybe moved with them a little better. But that throw right there is probably one of the bigger White mistakes, because Elijah Moore improvised pretty good, and he had room on the sideline there with plenty of separation. If White puts it on him, it's a completion, it's first down, and you got probably 4 shots to have another chance to win this game. But White missed it. So those improvised throws, I think he's good in the in structure rollouts, like just play fake, bootleg. But the out of structure athleticism and movement, maybe not his best trait. We kind of saw it there.
Well, now that he's facing live bullets, maybe he gets better at it.
Yeah, that's true. But so overall, I guess the biggest thing about these 2 games for White, for me, is the way he's exceeded expectations with some of the, higher end kind of skills. Because, I expected him to come in, hit the easy throws, check the ball down, complete passes at a decently high percentage, and just do some of that basic stuff right. But I did not expect him to, make some of the throws he made against the Bears, those 3rd and medium, tight window slants, and then Minnesota, 3rd and long, 2nd and long, just firing lasers, 15 yards down the field, 20 yards. That's the stuff I didn't expect to see. So it's hard not to be excited when, he's still doing all that stuff we knew he would be good at, or at least felt confident he would be good at. Just the simpler stuff, managing the game, all that. But then complementing that with, okay, you need me to drop back 60 times, be clutch, and make tight window throws one after the next. I can do that too. So that's what has me excited. But just like you said, let's see him go do it on the road against Buffalo. That's when you could really start taking him seriously and thinking like, okay, now maybe we have something here. Right now, still pretty early. I think it's been an awesome 2 games, but still 2 games. And you could, couple it with what he did last year, but still a small sample. But if you can go into Buffalo and keep this going, and not even, doesn't even have to be at the same rate in terms of 300-plus yard games. You could still hold him to that same standard we expected coming in. Just manage the game and be an effective quarterback against this elite defense, maybe in the snow, looking at the forecast. As long as he could do that, it would be great. But if he can come close to what he did in these last two games against Buffalo, then it's hard to ignore what he's been doing.
Well, I will say,
either way, I'm so impressed.
In terms of the weather, we already saw him throw for 300 yards in
the
monsoon.
So. That's what gives you even more confidence that he's already shown you that.
Yeah, so I guess with that, let's talk about the Bills. If you have any other thoughts on some guys who stood out to you against Minnesota, maybe just weave them into some of these answers. Because let's just talk about this matchup, because one of the things that really jumps out is how different these two teams look compared to their first meeting. The Bills lose Von Miller for the year, which is a very big loss, but in their first matchup, they didn't have Jordan Poyer, who's back. They didn't have Tre'Davious White, who's back. And they didn't have Matt Milano, who's arguably one of the best linebackers in the league, if not the best linebacker in the league, and he is questionable. He hasn't practiced. We're recording this Thursday night, so he hasn't practiced Wednesday or today. We'll see what's up Friday and what his game status is. But regardless, the Bills got, I would say, better, even losing Von Miller. I mean, they basically get back the defense they had last year, which was the number one defense in the league. So definitely a tough test for the Jets. But for the Jets, especially on offense, they get some big improvements. They go from a guy in Zach Wilson who is, really struggling second year, and bring in a guy like Mike White who's coming off of back-to-back 300-yard games. You feel like the Jets have upgraded there. At right tackle, they go from a Wayhue, who filled in admirably, but to a guy like George Fant, who seems like he could be a legitimate plus. They still have Mims, but they now have Corey Davis healthy, who can start in that role. You pointed this out, which is a great point. Elijah Moore no longer in the doghouse. He's finally getting a good amount of targets and reps, so he now seems like a factor. The resurgence of, or not even resurgence, the appearance of Bam Knight in this Jets offense really changed things for this Jets running game. They finally have that explosive fact that they missed when Brees went down. So all of those things, Michael, it feels like two completely different teams. And the Jets get Sheldon Rankins back too, who played 10 snaps, had a strip sack, and then got hurt. So both teams are better. You can argue which one, but it's just a different matchup. So what do you make about the differences in the first matchup and this matchup, and then maybe how it'll affect how the Bills and Jets play this thing?
Oh, I mean, I think both teams are looking better coming into this one, other than Von Miller being out, which is a pretty big loss. I mean, he had a strip sack in that first Jets game that took points away. So that's a huge loss, but they have Tre'Davious White back, and he's been ramping up his first two games back. Maybe this is the first game where he plays full snaps. First game he barely played. Last game he played, I think, about 60%. Now they've had 10 days rest. So this could be his first fully played game. Jordan Poyer's being back is huge. This year they're 8-0 with Poyer. They're 1-3 when Poyer doesn't play. So he's very important for them. And then Matt Milano is a huge X factor. We'll see if he plays in this game. It's not looking great right now. Hasn't practiced through Thursday, and that's with all that extra rest. So if he doesn't go, I think maybe with Miller also being out, then they kind of cancel out. Maybe the Bills are about the same as last time. If he does play, then I think they're improved because his coverage ability at linebacker is as good as it gets. And when you're a Jets team that is going to want to, take some elements of that last game plan against the Bills, play it safe, especially in this weather that might come. Play it safe, get the ball out quick. Good coverage linebackers can shut that down with their ability to diagnose screens, make tackles in the flat, make good reads, and take away passing lanes over the middle. They can be a huge obstacle in that. Yeah.
And think about what Mike White loves to do. He loves going over the middle, intermediate.
Yeah.
He's been intercepted by linebackers before. He's had a few close calls. That second level of the defense is vulnerable for Mike White if there's a really good pass coverage linebacker there.
Yeah, so Milano is huge. I mean, that's the one to watch. And Poyer and White being back, definitely a big boost, but Miller is also out. But you look at Matt Milano, if he doesn't go, I think it's a big one that the Jets can take advantage of. If he does, then it's a tough Bills defense either way, but I think it's a whole different animal if Matt Milano is out there. So we'll keep an eye on that one. And then you look at the Jets side, like you mentioned. I mean, quarterback, go from Wilson to White. And granted, Zach Wilson played good in that game. It was the one good game he played out of his final 5 before he went out. So Mike White does have to live up to that. But I think the Jets will play differently with Mike White because I think part of the reason Zach Wilson played well is because the Jets felt like they had to simplify things so much to make it work. And, part of the reason you could do that is because Matt Milano wasn't there, and that changed so much about defending that quick game. But if Milano's back, and either way, just because of having Mike White and the confidence the Jets have shown in him throwing the ball down the field, I think the Jets will open it up a little bit more. They'll do some of that quick game, again, especially considering the weather. But I think they're going to try to open it up a little bit more than they did last time, especially since the Bills I doubt they're going to let the Jets beat them the same way they did in that first game when it was all just RPO, it was one read, it was just quick passes, very little down the field besides one deep shot to Mims on the first play. So I don't think the Bills are going to allow that to happen. I think the Jets are going to have to air it out, and I think they feel confident Mike White can do that, especially with Von Miller being out and George Fant being in. I think that's going to help them have confidence in that drop-back passing game. But, like you said, Zonovan Knight is in instead of James Robinson, who has not been much of a playmaker this year, while Knight has. Corey Davis is back. He didn't play in that previous game. Sheldon Rankins was very effective, but barely played before he was injured. He's back. So Jets have a lot going for them offensively, specifically on the offensive side compared to that last game. I think on paper it looks like a more talented unit, so we'll see if they can use that to, be able to compete in this game similar to how they did last time, but in a different fashion. Because like I said, I think Buffalo's going to adjust and make the Jets beat them in different ways. So we'll see if the Jets can use some of these added weapons compared to the previous game and find a new way to succeed against this Bills defense.
Yeah, the other thing that jumps out to me about Von Miller being out is the Bills like the Jets, try to win with 4. They try to win with their 4 down defensive linemen. And if they're not getting pressure on White, which I think he's shown that if you give him time in the pocket, he's going to find the open guy, they're going to have to blitz him. But Mike White has also been very good against the blitz. Right. So that Von Miller, especially with the Jets' kind of shaky shaky tackle situation, I know the 2 guys they have in are good, but if one were to go down in this game, is huge. Because if Von Miller plays...
if one of them does go down, you're looking at a rematch of that 2015 Super Bowl when Von Miller was so dominant against Remmers that he won Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah,
so we do not want to see that.
So good thing Von is out for the Jets, but never cheer for anybody's injuries. But I guess if the Bills were able to win with just their 4 down linemen, I think I would be a little bit more concerned about this game, especially when you think about the players they have in the back end. But with Von Miller out, I like this matchup for the Jets offensive line. Not to say that the Bills don't have other pass rushers and that they can't dial up some blitzes and get some pressure on White, but I think they're going to have to get creative to get pressure on Mike White and force the ball out of his hands. And Mike White has shown that if you blitz him, he knows where to go with the football. And if you're not going to blitz him, I think the Jets are also going to have some running lanes and running opportunities. Like, they won't be able to put as many guys in the box if they're not going to blitz him and they're just trying to win with 4. It's like, but they're not getting there, then the Jets are going to win that battle in the trenches and they'll be able to run the football. So that's a big advantage for the Jets with Von Miller being out. But yeah, Milano and Poyer and Tre'Davious White are all amazing football players. So I think both teams are improved, which makes me excited about this matchup. How do you think, is there anything you think the Bills will do differently? I know the Jets will, like you said, probably have to change things up, but in the way that the Bills look at this game and try to attack Mike White, and then on the flip side of things, offensively, how they try to attack this Jets defense, when they look at that first matchup, what do you think they'll say, you know what, we got to shake this up?
Well, it's interesting with Mike White because, like we said, he's kind of unleashed this new element of his game that you didn't expect to be there. So he's, a little bit more of a multifaceted quarterback than maybe he was coming into this year because, he's shown you that he'll throw the ball down the field, he'll challenge tight windows, and he's not afraid to attack you. But what I think is interesting is because the Bills are usually a very heavy kind of 2-high coverage team, 2 safeties back deep. But against the Jets in the last game, they switched to playing a lot of more single high coverage because that's what everyone was doing against Zach Wilson because they weren't afraid of him beating them deep. So they made that adjustment, which was unusual for them. But I wonder if they change back in this game because what do we say Mike White's really good at? Attacking the middle of the field. And I think if you play too high coverage, kind of leaves that open a little bit more than if you play, single high coverage. So are they going to stick with what they did last time, even though it's a different quarterback, just because it kind of works to take away Mike White's middle of the field game? Or, are you going to go back to your bread and butter? So I'm interested to see that. And then also the blitzing, like you said, with no Von Miller, are they going to turn that up to try and find new ways to generate pressure? Um, Zone blitzes, that's an interesting part of this because those picks he threw against the Bills last year, at least one of them I know was to a linebacker. I don't think it was Milano, but I think
Edmonds?
Mike White has Edmonds, yeah. He's shown some susceptibility to linebackers maybe undercutting him, such as that one throw against the Bears, which I still think was a great throw because I love the aggressiveness to try it, and he had enough touch on it to just get it by him. But there was that one throw against the Bears where the linebacker did have a beat on it, potentially had a chance to make a great interception. So there is that aspect of his game, and I think you could get him with some of those, some of those blitzes where you're dropping your linebacker off the line of scrimmage. Hopefully he doesn't see it. Maybe he can undercut it. So I guess those are some of the things I would look at.
I guess, I mean, I do want to keep talking about the matchup between a few weeks ago and the matchup that's going to take place this Sunday. But you do bring up a great point in terms of who's the one team Mike White struggled against, the Bills last year, and that is a completely different matchup. The Jets are certainly a better team from that point.
Yeah.
The Bills are about the same, if not better, or maybe worse, depending on how you look at it. When you go back and watch that Mike White Bills game, I mean, what are some of the things that stand out to you that maybe could cripple him this Sunday?
I mean, I think he's talked about it kind of multiple times since he's been asked about it in the media. I just think he's definitely playing a lot of hero ball in that game. That's what some of those interceptions were. You're a big underdog at home. They weren't in the hugest hole in the first half actually, but they definitely weren't leading most of that game. So I think he was kind of over aggressive, and that's the thing about Mike White. You even go back to that game. And, we've seen this year he's been aggressive, taking shots downfield, but he showed signs of that in that Bills game last year. But I think it was to a reckless degree in that game, whereas this year I think he's controlled his aggressiveness a little bit better because I think at heart he's always first and foremost going to be a game manager. He goes through his reads quickly. He's willing to take the check down if that's the best play. He's very willing to do it. Will do it more so than most quarterbacks. So I think that will always be what he wants to be first and foremost, but there's still that aggressive aspect to his game to where when he does have to make a throw downfield, if he thinks it's open, he will take it and he will challenge it with confidence. But I think in last year's Bills game, it was to too confident of a degree. And I think he was trying throws he should probably not have attempted. And this year, I think he's been more controlled in that aspect. And, it's led to some success in these tight window situations because I think he's taking smarter, more calculated risks. So I think that will be the key in this game to keep building on what he's done the last two games in terms of playing with confidence, playing with rhythm, but don't get into that hero ball sort of mode where you feel like you have to do too much to win this game. And if he can do that and just be safe with the ball, take the checkdowns when that's the right play, and still play that confidence when he is going downfield, but make sure to keep it controlled, then I think he should be able to be okay in terms of limiting those interceptions that he had last year. Because I mean, this season, you look through two games, he hasn't thrown a real interception yet. Like, he had a tipped ball interception that was probably a penalty, and he had a last-ditch, interception at the end of the game, and had none in the Bears game.
Yeah.
So he hasn't really thrown a real interception yet. I think he's been better at taking care of the ball and just finding ways to control his aggressiveness, still be confident, but also in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think he definitely has shown improvement from last year to this year in terms of taking care of the ball. He's gotten lucky on a few occasions, but the turnovers will happen. But I think he's shown a good balance between being aggressive but not being reckless, which has been a tough balance for the Jets to find as of late. What are some of the big matchups that you're looking at for this game? I guess we can start on the Jets' offensive side of the ball. I mean, I guess Milano versus White is a matchup, but on the outside, I mean, I feel like Garrett Wilson, Tre'Davious White could be a fun one to enjoy. Any other ones, and what do you think about that matchup?
That's definitely a fun one. I'm looking at these tight ends too because with Poyer back, that definitely helps you with a matchup player for tight ends. The linebackers have a part in that too, and Milano's healthy. I think the Bills probably are as good from safety to linebacker as anyone in pass coverage. So tight ends had a rough time against this Vikings defense. I mean, Tyler Conklin was blanketed most of the game. Couldn't make some of those contested catches. Not the most egregious. I wouldn't call them drops, but he definitely had some contested situations, and he came up short on most of them, if not all of them. So it wasn't his greatest game. So those tight ends, very interested in that because the Jets are going to need to be able to move the ball methodically. The Bills are really good at taking away big plays, and as good as the Jets were in that last game offensively, they still didn't have many huge plays. The Bills still took that away, and then now with Poyer back, they should be even better at that. So it's tough to beat them that way, but you can beat them methodically, and I think that's more than just quick throws, screens, stuff like that. It's intermediate passes and 5 to 10 yards downfield, maybe a little bit deeper. And I think that's where the tight ends can come into play, and they got
Yeah,
a tough matchup against this Bills defense. So I liked the tight end matchup. Conklin got to separate because he's a great route runner. That's the best part of his game. And this last game wasn't as sharp in that area as usual. So going to need better from him in this game against a tough matchup.
well, yeah, and the other thing when you play these types of games and you want to win in a methodical fashion, and really in any fashion, but controlling the line of scrimmage, winning in the trenches, and I think
Right.
that is why the Jets won the first time these two teams faced. Is the Jets won the battle in the trenches on both
Yeah.
sides of the football? Are there any matchups offensively or defensively in the trenches that you're really keeping an eye on for the Jets to that'll maybe help them win on Sunday or maybe cost them?
I actually do have really an interesting one for the Bills offensive line. So last game, their right tackle was out, Spencer Brown, and he got
Right.
replaced by David Quessenberry, who was on the Titans last year, and the Jets destroyed him in that game they played at MetLife. And I was looking at that and I thought this could be a good matchup, especially for Bryce Huff. He beat him last year for a sack. And there it is, fourth quarter. Bryce Huff gets him for a strip sack. So they won't get that in this game because Spencer Brown is back. But since Spencer Brown has come back, forget exactly what injury he had, but since he's been back from that injury, he missed a few games. He's been one of the worst right tackles in the league. He's given up a lot of pressures, much more than he was at the beginning of the season. So, despite that, despite the fact that he's back and you're not playing a backup this time, I think his recent production suggests that he's still a guy you can exploit. So I'm looking at Bryce Huff on that side. I'm looking at Jermaine Johnson, and can they be able to take advantage of that matchup at right tackle? And then the rest of the offensive line, I mean, Carl Lawson against Deion Dawkins. That's a great strength versus strength
Are we gonna
matchup.
get the Carl December breakout?
We got to
You
get
think?
that. We got to get that, right? I mean,
Maybe set it
it's
up
something.
for listeners who don't know.
Yeah, 2019, 2020, he did that. Um, he December, he had a huge uptick in his pressures and all of his pass rush stats. So he's a theme of doing that. I mean, he's a guy who suffered a lot of injuries, so it makes sense that maybe sometimes he takes his time to ramp up and he finishes the season strong. So this is another situation like that. And Carl Lawson this year, and you tell me what you think. I mean, I think we're on the same page, but I'm a little disappointed this year. I think he's been good. He's been good. He's definitely an above average edge rusher. But I think when they signed him, I was expecting to get one of the top 10 to 15, maybe even top 5, edge pass rushers in the league. And this year he's just been pretty good. He's kind of different than what he was. I feel like now he's a guy who does get the sacks, and he comes up with a big sack seemingly every game when the Jets really need it. But the consistent wins and consistent pressure, I don't see as much as I did when he's with the Bengals. So not quite as consistent as I hoped. And not to talk about the offseason, but I think he's definitely trending towards maybe being a guy the Jets try to move on from, whether it's trade, cut, whatever.
Yeah,
But
they'd free
I think he's capable
15.
of a lot more. So what do you think, Carl Lawson?
Well, they'd free $15 million
Yeah,
if they and they'll be not like crazy tight for cap space, but they're gonna have to make some room because they're gonna give Quinn an extension. They got some big extensions to look forward to, and so Corey Davis and Carl Lawson are the two guys they can cut. If they cut both of them / trade, $25 million off the cap. Corey Davis free 10, Carl Lawson free 15. I think both those guys are good enough that they would probably trade him and somebody would pay for him. But yeah, unless Carl Lawson has a dominant December, I don't know if he's back here next year. But maybe that's a little too early to say. But just because the Jets have Jermaine Johnson, they have Bryce Huff, they maybe want to pay.
right.
They could draft.
They have a pipeline there.
They have a pipeline there,
good about it.
right? And so we'll see what happens there.
So they are in a good spot.
And I think that Carl Lawson has been good. Just I think our expectations for him because of the type of offseason that he had in 2021 were so high. And look, an Achilles injury like that, he may never be the same, but he also may be the same, but it could take 2 years. Like that is an injury that you're not always the same. You're not really ever the same right off the bat. And maybe he'll get to a point where it's not like I watch him and I think, wow, he looks so much slower. There's a little bit there that you feel like he's maybe lost just a split second of that burst. And also, like you described him accurately, like he's just kind of like a big wrecking ball out there. Like that's great. He's creating pressure. He's moving the pocket, but he's not really chaining those moves together you saw, that pass rushing repertoire that you saw in Cincinnati. He's not really doing that. But I still think he's a good player, and I still think, like you said, he's primed to have a big December. And the Jets, certainly, if they want to make a playoff push, they got to get between either him, Clemens, or Johnson. Somebody has to become a presence there off the edge. They all make an impact. They all get some pressures, but like if they could get either a Jermaine Johnson, big December, or Carl Lawson, who's probably the most likely candidate, or even a guy like Clemens, or maybe Huff gets more rep. They just need somebody off the edge. I know JFM has been a lot better, but as of late, he's really come on the last few weeks. But they need somebody off the edge to really consistently win. So we'll see. We'll see how Carl does on Sunday. But I like that matchup. I think that's a good one to point out. Any other ones?
I mean, I would just quickly talk more about Lawson. I mean, I guess like you said, that's how I described his game to you. I feel like he's kind of just a wrecking ball right now. It's like he gets off the ball and he bull rushes, and that's about it. Like I don't see as much combination of the moves as you saw at the Bengals. Like I felt like he had inside moves, like he could set up outside, come back in. I felt like he would, was a little bit better at getting around the edge with just, chopping the hands down, getting a rip, getting around the corner. Like right now, I feel like he kind of is just a bull rusher, which isn't the worst thing because he gets his sacks. He's got 6 of them this year, and 2 of those were half sacks, so he really has 7 sacks, 19 quarterback hits. Pressures are decent, but just not at the same level as they used to be. And he's also really good on stunts, and that wrecking ball mentality helps on that. When he's just crashing inside, the tackle has to come with him because he gets in there so true. Fast. And I think tackles are able to get out there, so he is good on the stunts. That's a big part.
I think he's definitely helped Quinnen Williams out a lot. You look at the type of season Quinnen's had. Having a guy like Lawson next to him who packs that punch and is as explosive. Like even if he's just a wrecking ball, that's still extremely helpful for the Jets. It's just is that a $15 million wrecking ball?
It's good to have.
Right. But look, I'm excited for him, and also if he goes off on Sunday, we'll have to slander him on every pod for the rest of history. Because I feel like we're setting him up to like, hey, we haven't been that impressed with Carl Lawson, and then bang, 2.5 sack game, forced fumble.
That tends to happen. It tends to happen on the podcast.
That does happen sometimes.
Call someone out, and then they break out. And you know why I think that happens a lot is because I think when a guy gets to a point where he's overdue to play better, that's when you start noticing it. So it just happens to be the perfect time where he is supposed to start breaking out, and maybe that's what's happening with Carl Lawson here. So
we'll see.
Good player, but relative to what I think he has done in the past and also his price tag, I think he's capable of better. But still nice to have him right now. He's been a key part of the season and will continue to be a key part. But I think he is capable of really pushing them even further over the top if he could just start chaining those moves together a little bit better. And maybe some of that is physical because I think physically you see him and he gets off the ball well, he gets good push. when he does make contact, but maybe part of maybe part of the reason he isn't as good in the finesse department is just the confidence, in that lower body, whether it's just making cuts, like breaking inside. Maybe there's an aspect of that where, you need a little bit more reacclimation and confidence to be able to do it. Maybe there's some of that. So we'll see what happens. He's an interesting player in terms of what he can do to raise their ceiling even further down the stretch here.
Is there any other matchups that we want to talk about? Because we could move on here. I think we've covered most of these matchups here. I guess in terms of Josh Allen, though, I don't know if we've talked enough about him because he's really the X factor. I mean, he's arguably the best quarterback in the league. If he's not one, he's number two. And he had an uncharacteristically awful game against the Jets the first time around. Awful for him. I mean, it still would have been great for the Jets, but maybe not. Some of those interceptions were brutal. The first one was uncharacteristically bad. That looked like
you should have had another one that Whitehead dropped.
That's true. So when you go back and watch that game, how much of that was Josh Allen being bad versus what the Jets were doing? And then when you look towards this Sunday, I mean, how do you think the Bills will try to attack some of those weaknesses that maybe they've seen from the Jets since that game, or how the Jets will try to build off of what they did? I mean, just your thoughts on the Josh Allen matchup.
I mean, some of it was definitely Josh Allen just being bad. Like the first both of those interceptions, I really don't know what he was going for with either of those. I don't think either of them were the greatest pressure or coverage ever. It was,
if I'm not mistaken, on the first one, he couldn't see Whitehead because JFM was in his face, and he was looking down the field, and he's like, okay, I'll take my check down. And then JFM was lined up perfectly, so he couldn't see Whitehead, who jumped it.
Yeah, so I think they caught a little bit of a break there, but the Jets also did some great things that definitely did contribute. I mean, Jermaine Johnson's sack in the open field, like that's just pure talent, and we've seen the videos. It's exactly what they pictured when they drafted him, so that's a great asset to have against Allen.
Quick pause on that. His celebration, Jermaine Johnson, when he gets a sack.
Yeah.
I referred to it as a Thor celebration because it kind of looks like he summons. I'm not like a big Marvel guy, but like he summons like an axe, and then but I guess it's a Florida State thing, but it's cooler if you imagine that he summons the axe. Pretty sick celebration. Sorry, I just had to get that. We were tweeting about that a few weeks ago. It was the bye.
You're a DC guy. Just stick to that.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, not today's DC.
That's true. We're both kind of out of it right now. I have been a big Marvel guy, but I phased out kind of the last year or so. So both of us are not too in tune right now. But nevertheless, I would like to see more of the Thor celebration this week against Josh Allen.
That would be great. He's certainly a guy to keep an eye on.
But I think at the same time, I think where the Jets can improve is the run game against Allen, because passing game was quieted, but pretty much all the Bills' offensive production in that game was Allen running. I mean, both their touchdowns were Allen rushing touchdowns, and those drives were mostly set up by him running. So I think the Jets can improve in how they contain those. Obviously, you don't want to overcommit to that and then let him beat you through the air, because I think if you had to choose one, you would. I think the Jets would sign up for 17 points with 2 Allen rushing touchdowns. So you don't want to overcommit your assets to that, but you still want to do better with it.
Yeah, and every time he runs, you give Quincy Williams and Jordan Whitehead a shot to take his head off. I mean, the Jets have some hard hitters. Quan Alexander, they have some heavy hitters. So it's like, okay, even if he gets that 11-yard scramble for a first down, it's like those hits add up, especially over the course of a season, playoffs around the corner. Like, maybe he's not looking to run as much. So I agree with you on how they should match him up. I feel like they do have. Sorry, go ahead. I know I completely cut you off, but I feel like they do have a few guys in this defense who are especially equipped to deal with mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah, for sure. Like that team speed definitely helps against that kind of quarterback. We saw it last game. But I think the big thing for me in terms of defensive game planning, like what are they going to do this time, is are they going to keep that cornerback strategy they used last game? Because that was the one game of the year where they let the corners switch sides. It wasn't just Sauce on the left, Reed on the right. They had Sauce playing tight end side most of the game, and Reed would play the other side, regardless of whether that was left or right. So corners were traveling last game. That was their approach for Diggs and all the weapons that the Bills have. So are they going to stick with that this game, or are they going to, maybe switch back to their usual? Because I think that might be a good move, because Buffalo might prepare, for what the Jets did last time. And now you throw out your usual look where you just keep them at home. Maybe that, surprised them a little bit. So I'm interested to see what they do in terms of that
Or
approach, because it worked pretty good last time.
yeah, I think it did. I don't know if they switch it up too much. I think DJ Reed certainly showed he can handle Stephon Diggs, and then obviously the bigger body and Sauce is it's a better matchup for him on Gabe Davis. But I would like to see a little bit more of the Diggs on Sauce action. I don't know the last. I mean, look, I get it the way the Jets play, but it seemed like the Jets flipped the field to have Reed follow Diggs, and then last week they flipped the field to have him follow Jefferson. And it's like, I know Sauce is the rookie. I know he's going to get burned occasionally, whatever, and Reed's a fantastic player, but I hope we get some more Sauce on Diggs.
We kind of get let down with these, build matchups. Like, oh, we got Sauce versus Jefferson.
It's more Reed.
Like,
Reed's getting the A-list, yeah. I think a lot of times it's like...
it just doesn't really happen in this NFL anymore. So, teams are playing zone, keeping corners on one side. So
and a lot of teams, like Belichick used to do this a lot, where it's like, take your number 2 corner and double him with the safety and put that combo on the team's best receiver, and then have your number 2 corner or whatever, have your number 1 corner cover the team's number 2 receiver. You know what I mean? Like you could double their star and then take your best corner 1-on-1 against Gabe Davis. So
what's interesting though about that Vikings game, and I didn't notice this until I rewatched it, but as we know, Reed was on Jefferson for that touchdown, and that was on the left side of the field where Sauce usually plays. That was the only play in the whole game where they switched sides. So I don't really know what they were doing there. I saw this quote from Sauce after the game. I think one of the reporters put it out, and he said their plan was that I think Sauce said he plays the boundary in the red zone, which is, if the ball is on one of the hash marks, the boundary side is the side that the ball's on, because that's the shorter side of the field. So, the ball's more likely to go there. And then, the other side is the field, called the field side, because there's more space, so more field. So he said that was the plan, but the previous play, and on that play that was the boundary side where the throw was, but on a couple plays earlier, they were still in the red zone and they passed, and the ball was on the other side, but Sauce was still on the left. So that was the only play of the whole game where they did that. So I don't know exactly what they're going for, but I don't totally dislike it, because Reed is a really good player, and I think he matches up. I think he matched up better against Jefferson in this game, to be honest, than Sauce did. There were some plays where Sauce was beaten, but luckily Cousins missed the throw, and Reed I think hung with them a little bit better. So I don't totally dislike it. I'm not gonna hindsight to knock it just because it turned into a touchdown, but it was just interesting because it was the only play they did that.
Yeah, I feel like the way that they're using Sauce and Reed has been excellent so far. Like I think what the Jets have got from DJ Reed has been honestly in some ways the biggest reason the Jets have taken as big of a leap defensively. It's because maybe the Jets get the big Quinnen Williams breakout. Maybe Sauce is great as a rookie. But to have 2 great corners and have the Quinnen Williams breakout, that's what's culminated in this defense. So I don't mind giving Reed the shots on the team's best number 1 receiver. That matchup worked last time. I'm just saying, I think there's the Bills have that clip from the first play of the game of Diggs beating Sauce. Maybe we could get another. Although I will say Sauce had a big game in that one too. Had a turnover, and we'll get to the random predictions in a little bit. But I might be cooking up another Sauce interception prediction. We'll see. Before we get to that though, and if there's anything else, feel free to steer the ship that way.
Actually, quickly, just one thing. So you just said the Jets' great cornerback duo. I want to throw Michael Carter II in there.
I did it. My bad.
Make sure we give him his credit.
Yeah, you're right.
Man, this guy is good. I think he was especially good against the Vikings here. He had a tackle for loss on Cook, I think. He had a short pass breakup, and he had some great coverage reps. He even got Hawkinson a couple times. He is really good. And even looking back to that Bills game, there were some reps that I liked from him. There was even one where he's in the slot, pressed Diggs, had him on a crossing route, stuck to his back hip, forced an incompletion. So I like me some Michael Carter II. I think, is he Pro Bowler? Slot guys don't really get in the Pro Bowl, whatever. But in terms of how he ranks among slot guys, I think he's just as high up there as, Sauce and Reed are among outside corners or all corners in general. So.
Is he the most underrated Jet? Probably, right?
I think he is, but I wrote this in my article I did about him this week. I was like, let's stop calling him underrated and just let's call him great. Let's make sure he's properly rated. Because I feel like every time he gets brought up, it's like he's underrated. So I just think he's great. So I'm gonna.
You're right about that. It is weird how like the slot corner isn't viewed as like a starter, and a lot of people's. It's always like the cornerback duos. It's like NFL defenses play nickel.
Yeah.
Way more than base personnel. He's more of a starter than Quan Alexander is, but we hear about Quan way more than Michael.
Snaps they lose are just run snaps.
Maybe if he didn't have the same name as another running back. If there was
that hurts him.
That does hurt his stock.
He could use a better name.
But he's been great, and you know who deserves a lot of credit? Joe Douglas for that. That might be, a lot of people say, well, like, okay, well, the Jets should have drafted well because they've had a ton of high draft picks. And it's like, there's some credence to that, although it's not like every top 10 pick is good. The Jets also know that. But it's the best teams draft well on days 2 and day 3. And if you can just find one guy on day 3 every draft, you're going to be in a good spot. And the Jets may have found more than one, but Michael Carter II has already, succeeded every expectation from his first pass breakup against that Panthers game.
That Panthers game.
I was like, I don't know how good Michael Carter II is going to be, and then he had that great breakup in his first game, and I was like, all right, we got a stud there, and he literally hasn't let him down since. So that's an interesting matchup as well. Let's do where the Jets are better. Changes a little bit. We could have just kept it from the one from a few weeks ago, but figure why not run through this again. Where are the Jets better?
Different lineups.
Bills, Jets. Yeah, we'll do it off the lineups. Bills, Jets. We'll start quarterback.
Jets.
Yeah, Mike White, baby. No, all right, Bills. Running back.
Bills
Jets.
Have been running the ball better lately.
Jets.
All right, okay.
Come on. Bam Knight in his first 2 games is going off at an unprecedented level. They get Michael Carter back. James Robinson hasn't been that good, but I would say, like, he is one of those guys when you talk about the Jets not getting a lot from their red zone offense. It's like James Robinson is one of those guys who's shown he can find that yard. He can tough out a few yards. It's just like, all right, he's getting 2-3 yards every carry, but it's like he's shown that he's great on the goal line. So if they're in those situations, maybe Robinson gets some touches, and also, the resurgence of Ty Johnson. He's come on a little bit. Who do you think?
Yeah.
Who do you think's their best receiving back? I was thinking about this the other day. Not just third down back, like pass catching back, because I think that's also kind of a big matchup in this one. Is yes, they have great pass coverage linebackers, but if the Jets can get their running backs and tight ends involved in this one, it's going to open up everything for Mike White, and specifically the running backs. Like who's your go-to if you want to dial up like a halfback wheel? Seems like it's been Ty Johnson a lot, which I don't necessarily agree with.
That's what I was going to say, because like, are we talking about routes? Because like
Both.
Purely like, because like Carter, I think is really good. Just dump offs in the flat, open field, along the sideline, making guys miss. I think he's really good there. He might even be more elusive than he is as a rusher in those situations. But I don't know if we've seen a lot of routes from him. But Ty Johnson, it seems like they trust him with routes. He won on that wheel against the Patriots where Zach Wilson missed the throw. There was one in the Bears game where he had a good route, right? I forgot what it was.
Yeah.
But he generally tends to run more routes than I think some of the other ones do. Knight obviously has been a good playmaker, but kind of similar to Carter. Like if we're talking about routes, I don't know if I've seen a ton of that. So I don't. In terms of that, I think it might be Johnson, which is maybe why he's out there on third down so much.
All right, receiver.
Definitely Bills.
Yeah,
not to sleep.
Maybe not Jets, definitely, but yeah, it's the Bills. It's definitely the Bills, but it's not like it's the blowout.
Yeah,
the talent gap between these two teams.
The way Garrett Wilson is playing, considering the quarterbacking he's had this year, for him to put up the numbers he's had is very impressive.
Yeah, tight end, Jets, right?
Yeah,
I don't feel Dawson Knox is
having the best year, right?
No, he was on my fantasy team for a few weeks, so it means I know everything about him for the 4 weeks he was on my team and put up no points. I know his whole story. Offensive tackle, Brown and Fant.
Brown and Fant. Dawkins is good, but Bills have a question on the other side. I think we could say Jets here.
Okay, yeah.
With Fant back.
What about the interior?
Interior?
Herbig, McGovern, and Tomlinson. Not a bad
the Bills have
interior
a
line.
decent interior. They got Saffold and Morris, but Ryan Bates, maybe not as impressive. Greg Van Roten is their backup, so that automatically cancels them out. I think Tomlinson's been a little bit better recently. I think he was solid in this Vikings game. Herbig's obviously been good. I think McGovern is good. But you want to go Jets?
I already wrote it down.
All right. So we're giving the Jets a whole O-line.
Yes, we're giving the Jets better at O-line, better at tight end running back. Bills are better at quarterback and receiver. If you're a Bills fan and you disagree, you can comment, I guess. We'll see how many Jets fans on this page will agree with you. I feel like you could maybe debate the offensive line a little bit, but at the very least, it would be a push. I don't think you could say the Bills' O-line's better than the Jets. I don't feel like we've been crazy too far. Let's get crazy, though. Talk about the defense. Edge. Jets.
No Von Miller? You got to give it to the Jets.
No Von Miller. You got to give it to the Jets. And you know what else you got to give to the Jets? Defensive tackle.
Defensive tackle.
Yeah, come on, Quinnen. This is getting a little lopsided. Linebacker will give the Bills.
Also might not play in this game.
Linebacker will give the Bills.
Definitely Bills. Even without Milano, I think Edmonds pushes them over.
Safety, we definitely give the Bills.
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest gap between these two teams. Corner, I think you got to give the Jets too. I know Tre'Davious White's great, and Bills have some good corners too. But
gotta give it to the Jets.
Can't argue that.
It's the best cornerback trio in the league.
Yes. And you said trio. Good job. And special teams? I don't really know much. I don't know anything about the Bills specials. Yeah, I don't know anything about the Bills specials.
Let's do some quick research here. Gonna do a spark notes of the Bills.
This is about as much research that goes into most
opinions
on Twitter.
89%, 24-27. Let's look at their returns here.
That's higher than Zerline.
Right. Kick returns only averaging 21 yards a kick return, but 10.4 per punt return. That's solid.
I know we're not at the. Greg Blaze been pretty money. I said I know we're not at the random prediction time of the podcast, but it's right around the corner, and we're talking about something that I think is a good segue. We're going to continue with this. I just want to get this out though before I forget. Random prediction. Are you ready for this one, Michael?
Here we go.
You ready? Braxton Berrios is going to run one back.
Okay.
I think he's dealt with the adversity. He dealt with the adversity on Sunday, dropping the game winner. He's due to run one back. He hasn't run one back all season. I don't know. I just have a feeling. I was like, you know what? I don't know if it's a punt or I feel like a Berrios return touchdown. At the very least, a big return on specials. I wasn't going to specify. I'm trying to increase my odds here.
That's good. You can stick with that.
Yeah. So I'll say Berrios runs one back, a big return. I'm going to say touchdown, but even I just feel like, a sizable return from Berrios. Pencil that one in. But if you're keeping track, do we get special teams to the Jets or Bills?
Let's just push it. Bass has had a good season.
Let's not pretend to know. All right.
Yeah.
This is going to look a little lopsided. We'll probably look a little biased, but we gave the Jets running back, tight end, offensive line, which is two different positions, edge, defensive tackle, and corner. And we give the Bills quarterback, receiver, linebacker, and safety. So that means the Jets have 7, and the Bills have 4. Math.
This doesn't look right. It
doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right, if I'm being honest. But at the same time, you could justify.
We have good reasoning.
The only one I think you can debate. Right. What are the ones you can debate? You can debate the ones on offense.
The two O-line positions are probably close.
Two O-lines are close. Tight end
Brown is bad. The Jets should have tackle.
Jets should have tackle, and interior. It's like Herbig has been a beast.
Maybe that's a wash because Tomlinson is shaky. Right, Mitch Morris is really good center.
All right, you know what? We'll be fair, which I don't even know, but we'll make interior offensive line a push. That gives the Jets 6 and the Bills 4.
But you have to give the Jets edge, right?
You have to give the Jets edge, defensive tackle, and corner. Absolutely.
You have to give them corner.
Oh, offensive tackle, I feel like you give them as well. Phantom Brown, that's not great. Tight end, the truth is there's one position on here that matters more than all of them, and the Bills have it, which is quarterback. And he's the guy that'll dictate this game. But yeah, you can maybe argue about running back, maybe, but
even if you do, it's like it's running back, so It's not that huge of a difference.
I will say, random, but we were talking about at the beginning of the podcast about playoff predictions. I don't think we have to worry about the Raiders because they did just lose. I got the tweet
lost?
notification, like an insane. We haven't watched it, so I have no idea.
Baker
But it's
Mayfield
insane Baker Mayfield comeback at the last second. So
all right,
thank you, Baker. We can
I gotta be
cross
honest. I feel good about that. I was tired of hearing about the Raiders.
Yes, so that's good for the Jets. All right, with that, Michael, let's get some predictions. Let's start with this. Best case for this game, worst case for this game. Let's go into some detail here. We'll get to the scores. We'll get to the random predictions. Let's start with the worst case scenario. Let's end on a high note. Worst case scenario, the Jets walk in there Sunday. It's snowing. It's raining. Allen's going off. What does that look like? What has to happen for the Jets to really fall off on Sunday?
Worst case scenario, I think it's turnovers. And that's something the Jets did a good job with last time. They only had the one, which was a Von Miller strip sack. Who's not going to be in this game. That was also on Ogbahee. Now it's going to be Fant. So just worth noting. I think it's turnovers. It's going to be in the weather, like you said. It's going to be risk there, especially if Mike White continues challenging some of these tight windows. And he was able to brave it against the Bears, but this might be a different animal than that. We'll see how it looks. So I think the Jets are turning the ball over. It's going to be hard to overcome that against this team because last couple games, Bears and Vikings, defenses you could get a lot of yards on and overcome some of those turnovers. But against the Bills, you got to win field position to be able to overcome the fact that they're probably more talented than you and are going to outplay you in between the 20s. So you got to be able to make up for that with the turnovers. And that's a big part of the Jets' last win. I mean, the interception on the first drive was crucial. If they don't get that, I don't know if they win that game because that was a disaster to start it out with that terrible kickoff and then the bomb to Diggs. That was a touchdown, and they just erased it with that one turnover. Then later, after the Von Miller strip sack, you cancel that out by getting the ensuing interception with Sauce Gardner. So turnovers were enormous in that game when it was all said and done. So the Jets need to replicate that in this one. So I think if they're turning the ball over, tipped interception or Mike White airmails one or someone fumbles in the weather, especially if it's early in the game, I think they could let it get away from them. Get in a pretty big hole because you remember the last game, Jets were down 14-3. That was not some storybook game from start to finish. It was them digging out of a hole,
right?
And that could have been a much bigger hole if not for that first interception. So I think that's the key: ball security early on, and get at least a takeaway or two. If those things don't happen, I think the Bills do have a chance to get up pretty big early and then put the Jets into comeback mode, which I don't think you want to be in that environment in this weather.
And let's just do best case, which for all this, you could probably just put not in front of these or the opposite of whatever we're about to say. But if the Jets go out there and win this game, it's going to come down to one thing. I mean, a few things, but primarily they got to win.
One thing. The whole game comes down to one thing.
Oh, it really does. I mean, If you got to simplify it, it comes down to the trenches. Can they get pressure on Allen with four?
That's true.
Because if the front four is not getting through, I don't care how good these corners are, Josh Allen's going to make a play. He's either going to run for 15 yards and keep running until your corners get tired, and then he's going to hit the big one, or he's just going to keep methodically moving you down the field. The Jets have to get pressure with their four. They need the big game from Carl Lawson and Quinnen and JFM and Jermaine Johnson and Huff. They need a big game for the defensive line. And then on the other side, they need a big game for their offensive line. They have to be able to run the football, especially if it's going to be snowing. They have to be able to run the football. They have to be able to give Mike White some time because without Von Miller, they might be sending some blitzes to get some pressure on White. They got to hold up to give Mike White time. And then, this isn't really maybe a specific one, but best case scenario is Mike White looks as good as he has the last 2 weeks. That this is once you get three great performances in a row, and he's become consistent with it, it's going to be hard to keep doubting him, especially if you can go into this environment. Then it'll be okay, well, can he follow up the big win and put four in a row? But it's like, if Mike White goes in there and he looks like the veteran that we've seen, he's moving the ball off the field and the Jets are winning that battle at the line of scrimmage, Jets are winning this game.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because, we're all going to focus on Mike White, and quite obviously He's important. He's the quarterback, but the trenches, I think, are what set up the success everywhere else on the field, and it's what helped them win the last game with the way they were able to run the ball down the Bills' throats at the end, and then defensively, the pressures in key spots were, those two things are the difference in the game. So, like you said, defensively, I think there's no quarterback. I don't know, other than probably Mahomes, there's no other quarterback who will punish you more for not pressuring him quickly than Allen, just because of, he's so hard to bring down. He's very good at extending plays and getting his teammates to improvise and hitting them on those improvised throws, and then just, scrambling and taking it himself. So you need to get quick wins off the edge, up the middle, wherever it comes from. You need to get quick wins to be able to beat him, like the Jets did with Bryce Huff's sack and various other pressures in that game. So defensive line needs to be really, really good, like you said. Then offensively, if they're going to win this game, it's running the ball has got to be a big part of it. It's not likely they're going to win the way they almost beat the Vikings last week by throwing it 60 times and trying to come back from down 17. It's probably going to be because they're able to run the football and have a balanced attack and sustain long drives, keep the Bills' offense off the field, and do some of those things that they did in the last game. So, and that's all about the offensive line. So, glad you brought that up. I think trenches is in the best case scenario for the Jets. They definitely have a great performance in the trenches on both sides of the football.
And in the worst case scenario, they don't.
They don't.
All right, random predictions. I said Barrett's going to run one back. We can trade them back and forth here. Give me a random prediction.
All right, random prediction.
You get way too specific with these to the point where they will never hit. So,
well, last week I said Garrett Wilson would throw a pass to Elijah Moore. So throwing in that stipulation made it technically incorrect because he threw it to Corey Davis.
Exactly. And he didn't even complete the pass. He did throw
a pass. So
all right,
I was right about that.
Nostradamus, anything else?
Trying to think of something crazy but also possible. The first thing that came to mind was George Fant would catch a pass, but that's that. Now we're getting out of hand. Yeah. How about Zonovan Knight, 2 touchdowns?
Okay, little more. I mean, I guess I was gonna say a little more on the conservative side.
Traditional?
But no, I mean, I like it. I like
crazy to something too regular.
You're finding the balance. I like that. I think that's a good one. I'll fire you back. Sauce Gardner interception. He gets another one. And this is how I said he would get it on the first one, and it didn't happen. I'm gonna double down. Deep pass. Sauce Gardner goes up there and plucks it out of the air. Like Allen looking for the big play. He's gonna hurl it. Those plays that are right at the end zone, like a 50-yard bomb. Sauce gonna be there and he's gonna pick that one off. That's my prediction. So I got Barrios running it back. Sauce getting a pick. I'll think of one for the offense, but you got to come with some heat on this next one, Michael.
All right, I got one. DJ Reed, pick 6, 27 yards.
See, then you screw yourself with the 27 yards because DJ Reed pick 6 would be crazy if you predicted that. 27 yards.
If it's right, though, then I could just retire.
Yeah, this is my strategy with the parlays that I do where it's like, all right, $5, but if all 17 of these teams win, I'll win $10,000. And it's like, yeah, but that won't happen. Like, if I just scaled it back to like 7 teams, I might win, $100. I don't know. Like gambling.
Let's go big or go home. No one wants
I'm pretty good with just putting $5 down. Like, I don't really go past that. But these parlays I've been putting down are just getting crazy. I just lost the one because I had the Raiders winning. I had one and it was like Jets with the spread because it was like 9.5 on DraftKings, and then I predicted every game, and I was like, wow, there's a lot of easy, obvious games. I think I might win my $4,000 off this $5 bet, and then check my phone, Baker Mayfield, I'm out my $5. So I think that's your strategy with these random predictions. I got one with the offense though.
Okay,
I'm gonna go. I don't actually have one. I was just gonna think of one on the spot, but I'm gonna go with I was going to say Mike White game-winning drive.
So I will. Flacco game-winning drive.
No, don't put that evil on me. Don't put that evil.
All right, I shouldn't even have said that.
I'll say
we'd be very happy.
I'll say Mike White has a game-winning drive.
Okay. So you're going to predict them to win then?
No, see, but that's the thing. And then I boxed myself into the corner there. Okay, I'm getting a little too Galaxy brand with. All right, never mind. You know what? No, Fuck it. I'm sticking with it. Mike White game-winning drive, and the Jets are winning this game.
Okay.
Michael.
I like it.
Yeah.
I actually I have some more specifics to add to my prediction. It's going to be an out route against Stephon Diggs. That's going to be too far to the inside. He's going to snag it, and that's how he's going to get his 27-yard pick six, and it'll be in the first quarter.
All right, good luck with that. Do you have a score prediction?
I don't think I'm going to go with the Jets in this one.
That's probably good for this pod if one of us.
I think it'll be a low scoring, uglier game. I'm going to go with Bills probably. 16, Jets 13.
Bills 16, Jets 13. I like that. I agree that it'll probably be a slugfest.
And if DJ Reed has a pick six, then I guess we're not scoring a touchdown on offense.
I guess
or they could and miss the extra point.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I'll say...
How about 16-14? Let me change it. They're going to score on offense.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
I do think the Jets get right to 20 points, though. I feel like 19-17. That a good one?
Okay. Yeah,
that would be 12-17. Mike White takes the field, game-winning drive. Or if he wins it on a field goal. Whatever. Doesn't matter. None of these will happen anyway. So, yeah, it could be 16-17. They could kick the game winner. Who knows? Game-winning drive incoming, though. I'm calling it right now. We'll see. All right, Michael, I guess that's it. I mean, if there's anything else, I'll do the plugs and you shout it out. But you can follow us at 2AJ Pod on Twitter, Michael_Nania. Myself, Ben W. Blessington. Go to jetsxfactor.com, the best place to go for Jets content. Check out all the other great pods on Jets X Factor as well. Subscribe to the YouTube. Also, if you can, rate, review, subscribe on iTunes. Always helps out the pod. I think that's it. Michael, you got anything?
So we're going all white this week?
No, probably white on black.
You think they run it back?
Yeah. It's a good look for them. They're winning, and it's also in the crappy weather. Its course?
2 losses in a row now? Because for me,
they beat the Bills in this uniform matchup, though. So I don't know if you want to mess with it.
But I was, my voting for it was based on the results, but now that's kind of fading away. I don't know. I still think it's white on white in Buffalo. Snowy Buffalo, go all white.
Yeah, let's make it harder on our. I guess that would make it harder on Josh Allen though, but I don't know. We'll see.
That's what I'm saying. They'll blend in with the snow. So how's he going to see them? Really good strategy.
I'm trying to think.
What about white on green? Do you have any?
The Peter Griffins. I think I actually don't hate the white on greens as much as other people do. They just lost in them more than any other combo.
My thought process with white on green is maybe they're too stigmatized by the losing they're associated with. So this has been the season of breaking stigmas and breaking curses. So maybe we got to throw that in there.
I want to see the green against Detroit. I'd go green on green.
Green on green, you want?
Yes,
for the Lions.
I'm going crazy.
Not the classic green on white.
Yes, I'm going green on green versus the Lions all white.
I've never seen Mike White in that outfit.
In that outfit.
Why did I say outfit?
Yeah, we outed ourselves with that one, Michael. Jesus. All right. Well, I guess we're done. That's enough uniform talk.
As soon as I said that, it was over.
Yeah, it was over. It's over for us.
Green on green. I vote for green on white.
Back to the what?
What?
Get it out. All right. I was gonna say back to the Among Us days for us. Shout out to all the OGs who understand that reference.
Yeah, green on white is mine.
Should we start?
For the
if we started a Cool Your Jets Discord? I mean, it'd be cool, I guess, right? People could talk some Jets in there. Get on there and talk with them.
Potentially.
Is it worth it? We could restart the Cool Your Jets Discord.
Talk about our favorite outfits.
Yeah. Okay. Jesus Christ.
I'm just gonna keep running that into the ground.
Now you got to commit to it. If you're interested in that, tweet us out. We're thinking about it. I don't know. I think we're good. All right, we'll be back on Sunday night, Monday, with the post-game thoughts on the Jets-Bills game. Hopefully, we'll be back on the following Wednesday with the George Fan interview, and then again, the Friday preview pod. So hopefully this time we do get the 3 pods in 1 week for you guys. That'd be great. But outside of that, Michael, I think we're good here. Everybody have a great weekend. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy Sunday. I don't know. I mean, the very least, maybe the Jets don't win, but I feel like the Jets will play well, and I feel like we'll feel all right about their chances down the stretch. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's always interesting. So thank you for listening, everybody. Have a great weekend.